It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. Millionaire sat in the park playing chess like kings, until a poor, dark-skinned little girl stepped close. One of the men turned, glared at her, and shouted, "Hey, get out of here, ugly black girl." Everyone laughed, but they had no idea. The girl they just insulted was about to become the greatest chess mind they would ever see. People say genius can be born anywhere, in the richest homes, in the poorest streets, even in the places nobody bothers to look. But nobody in that wealthy city part believed that. Not until the day a barefoot, hungry, 10-year-old black girl stepped into their perfect little world and shattered every assumption they ever had. It was a warm Sunday afternoon in Central Park. Sunlight dripped through the giant oak trees, landing softly on the marble chess tables lined up in a row. This was where New York's elite gathered. Famous business leaders with shiny watches, retired chess champions polishing their egos, investors who spoke only in numbers, socialites dressed like they were attending a gala instead of a park. Their laughter was loud. Their confidence was louder. To them, this corner of the park was sacred, their little kingdom of intelligence, money, and prestige. And then a small shadow appeared at the edge of their territory. A little girl. Her clothes were torn, hanging off her thin frame. Her hair was tangled like she had slept on concrete, because she had. Her feet were dusty, cracked, and bare. Her skin was a deep, beautiful shade of midnight, glowing even in the harsh sunlight. Her eyes, though, they carried something none of those wealthy people had seen in years. Calmness, sharpness, a quiet fire. Her name was Abria, but not a single person asked. She took a timid step toward the chess tables. The reaction was instant and cruel. A tall man with gold rings on every finger scoffed, "Hey kid, wrong place. Go back where you came from." Another smirked, tightening his expensive tie. "Get out of here, little black girl. This isn't for you." The insults grew sharper, like knives thrown from every direction. This area is for intelligent people. Street kids don't play chess. Shoo! Move before someone calls security. Some people laughed. Some rolled their eyes. Some didn't even bother to look up from their phones. But Abria, she didn't cry. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She simply lowered her head, not out of shame, but out of painful familiarity. Because insults were nothing new to her. She was an orphan. She slept on sidewalks, curled against cold buildings for warmth. Her only treasure was a small, wrinkled paper notebook where she drew chessboard from memory, a game she had never played on a real board. But today, something inside her flickered. A tiny spark of courage she didn't know she still had. So instead of walking away, she took one more step forward. Her voice was soft, barely louder than the wind, yet cut through the laughter like a blade. "I want to play." A full second of silence hit the park. Then, boom, the entire place erupted in laughter. People held their stomachs. Some wiped tears of amusement. Someone even dropped a chess piece from laughing so hard. "A homeless girl wants to play us? She can't even afford shoes. Sweetheart, you don't belong here. Someone get her out. This is too funny." But Abria didn't move. Her hands trembled, but her feet stayed rooted. Her eyes lifted, just enough for them to see the quiet determination inside. For the first time, the elite chess players felt something strange. They couldn't scare her away. A man with a diamond watch leaned back in his chair, amused. "Well," he said loudly, "this should be entertaining. Let's humor her." People stepped aside, forming a circle like spectators at a street performance. Abria moved closer to the board. Her heartbeat thumped loudly in her ears. She could smell their expensive cologne mixed with the scent of fresh grass. She could hear their mocking whispers. She could feel every eye judging her existence. Yet she sat down. For the first time in her life, she sat at a real chess table. The crowd leaned in closer. They expected her to embarrass herself. They expected her to lose in seconds. They expected her to prove their insults right. But Abria didn't look at them. She looked only at the chessboard, and her eyes glowed. In that moment, the audience felt something shift, something invisible yet undeniable, a feeling that said they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. One man, a retired investment banker with slick silver hair and a watch worth more than the girl's lifetime, finally stood up, cracking his knuckles like he was about to perform a public service. He didn't want to actually play her. He wanted entertainment. He wanted a story to laugh about at dinner. "Fine," he smirked, slamming the chess clock dramatically. "Let's see what you can do, sweetheart. One fast game. Then leave." The crowd roared with anticipation. Phones lifted. Cameras zoomed in. People were ready to capture a TikTok-worthy humiliation. A poor black girl being destroyed by a genius-level banker. Something to laugh at. Something to feel superior about. But Abria quietly slid into the seat, as if she belonged there all along. She placed her tiny hands on the edge of the table. Those hands had dug through trash cans, held empty stomachs, pulled cardboard over her head during cold nights. Yet here, on this board, they were steady, purposeful, almost elegant. Her eyes, though ringed with hunger and exhaustion, burned with an intelligence far older than her age. The banker made his first move with a flourish, as though he were performing for the cameras. But Abria, she responded instantly. No hesitation. No fear. Her fingers danced across the board like she had played this game her entire life. Click, click, click. 30 seconds passed. Whispers spread to the crowd like rising heat. What is she doing? That was a high-level opening. No. Seriously, did she study this somewhere? Impossible. She's a street kid. By the fifth move, the banker's smile began to fade. By the seventh, he tugged at his collar. By the eighth, a bead of sweat rolled down his temple. He tried to hide it, but everyone saw. Abria, the hungry little orphan girl, was controlling the board, not reacting, not defending, leading. The banker's fingers trembled as he made the ninth move. Abria answered instantly. By move 10, his voice cracked as he whispered, She's reading every move, I think." Someone in the crowd muttered, "No way. She's predicting him." Another said, "She's not just playing, she's studying him." 2 more moves passed. 3. Abria leaned forward just slightly, enough for the banker to freeze. Then, checkmate. A collective gasp burst from the crowd. People stepped back. Someone dropped their phone. A woman covered her mouth. A kid shouted, "No way." The same people who mocked her, the same people who insulted her skin, her poverty, her presence, now stared at her as if the world had suddenly flipped upside down. Abria didn't celebrate, didn't smirk, didn't even blink. She simply looked at the banker, this man who had everything she never did, and said in a barely audible whisper, "Next." A shock wave rippled through the park. The banker slammed his chair back, humiliated. His friends avoided eye contact. Someone muttered, "I can't believe a kid beat him." Another whispered, "That wasn't luck. That was mastery." People were confused and painfully curious. Who was this girl? Where did she learn this? How could someone who slept on sidewalks think 10 moves ahead of a trained adult? But Abria wasn't finished. Her eyes flicked to the next man in line, a former corporate VP known for winning local tournaments. "You want to try?" she asked politely. The man swallowed hard. He didn't want to play. He didn't want to lose in front of the crowd. But pride is a dangerous thing. He sat down. The crowd leaned in even closer. Phones were recording from every angle. Streamers were whispering commentary. Random strangers began placing small bets on the side. The second game lasted even shorter. 6 moves. Then, checkmate again. Shouts erupted. People started clapping. Some even laughed, but not in mockery this time. They were witnessing something rare, something electric, something special. A third man tried. Abria ended him in 9 moves. A fourth stepped up. She dismantled him in 12. A fifth, gone. A sixth, destroyed. Every match made the crowd louder, hungrier, more amazed. What started as cruel entertainment became a miracle unfolding in front of their eyes. Someone whispered, "She's a prodigy." Another breathed, "She's a genius." A woman near the back wiped tears and said, "This girl, she was born for chess." Yet Abria didn't smile once, not out of coldness, but because she wasn't there to prove anything. She just wanted to play. And now, an entire park stood frozen in awe, all because a little black girl they tried to chase away had revealed a mind sharper than anyone they had ever met. One after another, the wealthy chess players stepped forward, men with polished shoes, perfect haircuts, and resumes longer than childhood itself. A retired CEO whose face had been on magazine covers. A national-level tournament player with trophies lined along his penthouse walls. A tech millionaire whose followers treated him like a genius. Even a YouTube chess influencer who live-streamed his games every night. They all stepped up proudly. And one by one, they fell. Abria defeated each of them with the calmness of a monk and the precision of a machine. Her movements were fluid, almost artistic. While the adults slammed pieces and grunted in frustration, she simply lifted her small hand, placed a piece gently, and dismantled their strategies with frightening ease. It wasn't just that she was winning, it was how she was winning. Her eyes didn't wander. Her hands didn't tremble. Her breathing didn't change. She looked at each board as if she had already seen the game from beginning to end, like she wasn't playing real time, but replaying something she had already mastered in her mind long ago. By her third victory, whispers spread. By her fifth, the whispers grew into murmurs of disbelief. Is she a prodigy? This is insane! She's beating grown men like they're kids. But where did she learn this? This can't be real. Someone finally asked a question everyone was too afraid to say aloud. Who taught you? Abria lowered her head for a moment, not out of shame, but because the answer was so simple, yet so painful. She looked at her fingers. Small fingers that once dug through trash for food. Fingers that once traced chess grids on wet pavement. Fingers that trembled at night from cold. She whispered, "No one taught me." The crowd leaned in. Abria continued, "I watch people from far away. I watch their moves. I study how they think. And I practice in my mind." For a full second, the world stopped breathing. No board. No mentor. No home. No family. Only a child teaching herself a game that adults spent their lives mastering. A few people exchanged guilty glances. Their earlier insults suddenly felt heavier, uglier. They had told her she didn't belong. They told her she wasn't intelligent. They told her to leave. But she stood here, a living contradiction to everything they believed. Yet while the crowd buzzed with shock and shame, one man wasn't whispering. He wasn't laughing. He didn't pull out his phone. He watched her with a burning, unblinking intensity. The kind of focus a hunter has when he finally sees the rarest creature he's been searching for. He was older, maybe in his late 50s, with neatly combed white hair, a navy coat, and a notebook under his arm. His name was Mr. Milan. And although most people there recognized him instantly, Abria didn't. She didn't know that he was a world-traveling chess author, a global strategist, a former grandmaster known for discovering hidden talent all over the world. She had no idea this man had spent years visiting tournaments, schools, and online platforms searching for something rare, someone worthy of being called the next generation's genius. And today, sitting quietly at a distance, he finally found what he had been searching for. Every move she made, every pattern she predicted, every trap she avoided without knowing the names for them, Milan saw greatness, raw, unpolished, and untouched by ego or privilege. While the crowd saw a miracle, Milan saw a mind unlike anything he'd seen in decades. He saw the makings of a world champion. But what struck him most wasn't her genius. It was her loneliness, her torn clothes, her bare feet, her quiet voice, her trembling hands when no one was looking, her empty stomach trying not to growl. She wasn't just talented. She was surviving, and she was surviving brilliantly. Milan's chest tightened. He remembered his own childhood. Growing up poor, struggling, learning chess by candlelight. He knew what it meant to rise from nothing. But Abria, she wasn't rising from nothing. She was rising from below nothing, and yet she stood taller than every expert in that park. He closed his notebook slowly, almost reverently. This girl, he whispered to himself, is not an accident. She is a masterpiece. And while everyone else watched her next opponent nervously sit down, Milan already knew. Abria's life was about to change forever, because he had just made a decision, one that would rewrite her destiny and shock the entire chess world. The cheers from the crowd were still fading when something unexpected began to happen. A slow ripple of silence spread across the park, a silence so deep it felt as if the trees themselves were holding their breath, because through the sea of shocked faces, the world-famous Mr. Milan began walking forward. The crowd instinctively stepped aside, creating a path for him, not out of fear, but out of respect. This man was a legend in the chess world, a name whispered in tournaments across continents. And yet, his eyes weren't filled with arrogance, or amusement, or skepticism. They were filled with something far more powerful. Recognition. He didn't laugh. He didn't doubt her. He didn't look down at her torn shirt, her messy hair, or her bare feet. He didn't see a Blackstreet kid. He saw brilliance. He saw potential. He saw destiny. He simply sat down across from her and said, with a gentleman's calm, "May I play?" Abria hesitated for a heartbeat. Not because she was afraid, but because no one had ever asked her a question with that much respect before. She nodded politely. And just like that, the most important game of her life began. Mr. Milan made his first move. It was precise, elegant, calculated, the kind of opening only a master would use. But Abria responded instantly. There was no fear in her fingers, no hesitation. Just pure instinct mixed with something deeper, a natural understanding of the board that even Milan couldn't ignore. The game lasted longer, not because Abria struggled, but because Milan was the first opponent who truly understood the logic behind her moves. Each piece she touched felt intentional. Each strategy flowed from her like water. She was not just playing chess. She was breathing it. The crowd watched in stunned silence. No laughter, no mockery. Just awe. By move 12, Milan leaned forward, eyes narrowing with fascination. By move 15, he was nodding to himself. And by move 19, he made a mistake. Not a big one, but enough. To anyone else, it was invisible. But to Abria, it shone like a flashing red signal. She didn't hesitate. Her hand moved like lightning. Checkmate. The sound of that word, softly spoken by Abria, hit the crowd like a thunderclap. This time, the park didn't erupt with laughter. It erupted with awe. People clutched their heads. Mouths fell open. Someone whispered, "She beat Milan, she beat Milan." But Milan didn't look upset. He looked alive. He leaned forward, eyes trembling with excitement and something else, something very close to emotion. "You're not just talented," he said softly. "You are once in a generation." Abria blinked. She had heard insults her entire life. Mockery, dismissal, cruel words that carved deep scars. But never, not once, had she heard anything like this. "You don't belong on the street," Milan continued, his voice trembling with sincerity. "You belong in the world of champions." The crowd was completely silent. Even the birds seemed to pause in the branches above. Milan took a slow breath, the kind a man takes before saying something life-changing. Then he said the words that would rewrite her entire future. "Abria, would you like to come with me?" The world froze. "I will teach you, train you, feed you, give you a home, and show the world who you really are." Abria's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her chest tightened. Her heartbeat pounded painfully, because no one in her entire life had ever said the word home as if it included her. She remembered sleeping on cold sidewalks, drawing chessboards on scraps of paper, listening to people laugh at her, being invisible. But right now, in this moment, she wasn't invisible. She was seen. She was valued. She was wanted. Her eyes filled with tears, not the tears of fear, but the tears of a child seeing hope for the first time. She nodded slowly, silently, powerfully, and as a first tear rolled down her cheek, it washed away years of loneliness. For the first time ever, someone believed in her, and that belief would change the entire world. Years passed, but the memory of that day in Central Park never left Abria. It became the fire behind every move she studied, every strategy she mastered, every dream she dared to chase. Under Mr. Milan's guidance, Abria's world transformed completely. She finally ate warm meals, meals that filled her tiny stomach and replaced years of hunger. She slept in a soft bed, no more cold sidewalks or cardboard blankets. She traveled. Airplanes, hotels, tournaments she only heard about from faraway benches in the park. But most importantly, she learned. And she learned faster than anyone Milan had ever seen. They practiced day and night, in quiet rooms, on airplanes, at sunrise, at midnight. Milan would set up impossible positions on the board, and Abria solved them like puzzles made for children. She wasn't just talented. She was evolving. By age 14, Abria was no longer a street kid who played well. She was a national champion. Crowds chanted her name. Children held signs that read, "Abria the Genius." And her opponents, adults with 10 times her experience, looked terrified sitting across from her. By age 16, she began doing the unthinkable, defeating grandmasters, men in their 30s, 40s, even 50s, all crushed by a teenage girl who played with quiet confidence and laser precision. Every match she won, the world paid more attention. TV interviews, magazine covers, documentaries, trending hashtags, schools naming chess clubs after her. People whispered in awe, "How is she so young? How is she so strong? What kind of mind does she have? Is she the next Bobby Fischer? Or something greater?" But Abria never bragged, never showed pride. She always bowed her head respectfully after each game. She always thanked Milan first. And she always returned to her study board with the same focus she had the day she played in the park. Then came the day that would define her forever, the World Chess Championship. At 18 years old, barely an adult, Abria walked onto a global stage built for legends. Her opponent, a reigning grandmaster from Russia, twice her age, with a reputation carved from years of dominance. People doubted her. Analysts argued she wasn't ready. Some whispered racism, disguised as skepticism. She's too young. She's inexperienced. She's only famous because of her background. But those who knew her, those who saw her rise, those who watched her tear down giants, they knew she was ready. The final match began. Millions watched live. The board glowed under the stage lights. Every move echoed like a drumbeat. Her opponent played aggressively. Sharp openings, brutal tactics, complex traps. But Abria, she was calm. Her mind was still the same mind that learned chess by drawing boards on sidewalks. Her heart was still the same heart that refused to walk away from that park table. Her determination was still the same determination that carried her through hunger, loneliness, and doubt. Move after move, she dismantled her opponent. She countered every attack. She broke apart every strategy. She controlled the board with elegance, power, and vision beyond her years. And then, on move 47, she placed her piece down gently. Checkmate. The arena exploded. People rose from their seats. Cameras flashed like lightning. Commentators screamed her name. Milan, sitting in the front row, wiped tears he tried to hide. Abria had just become the youngest world chess champion in history. Reporters stormed the stage. Microphones swarmed her. Questions poured like rain. How did you become so strong? What inspired you? What makes you a champion? Abria looked at the sea of cameras, at the millions watching around the world, and smiled softly. "I was strong before they knew my name," she said. "I just needed one person to see me." That line broke the internet. It became the quote of the year, printed on shirts, posters, coffee mugs, and classrooms around the country. And the world never forgot. The day a wealthy crowd mocked a little black orphan girl, called her names, told her to leave. And she rose above them all with nothing but her brilliance, her courage, and a chessboard. But the world also learned something deeper. Genius doesn't need permission. Greatness doesn't need privilege. And sometimes the most extraordinary minds are found in the places we overlook. And that little black girl they tried to chase away, she rose higher than every millionaire who laughed at her. She proved that greatness isn't born in wealth. It's born in courage. If this story touched your heart, Don't forget to follow for more powerful stories like this. Thank you for watching, and welcome to the Soulvex Studio family.